followed by Q&A. Then we will be having a very short stretching break for about 10-15 minutes. Then we will assemble here at 5:25 p.m. Promptly we get started with Aarti at 5:30 p.m. Then after the Aarti we have the meditation, and at around 6:15 p.m. it is Prasad to go. And a very brief introduction about our Swami Atmikyananda. Swami Atmikyananda Nandaji Maharaj is currently the resident minister of Vedanta Center of Greater Washington DC. Swami took sannyasa of Ramakrishna order in 1996. In 1997, Swami came to Greater Washington DC Center, and since then he has been serving there as the resident minister. With the blessings of Sri Thakur, Mas Swamiji, Swami Swahananda, and Swami guidance of Swami Sarvadevananda, Swami took significant efforts and worked tirelessly in getting our VVC Center started at this location in November 2021. Swami continues to guide us in the operations of our center every single day by staying with us. With this brief introduction, on behalf of VVCC, I would like to request Swami to give us the speech this afternoon. Welcome, Swami.
One of the ways that Sri Ramakrishna gave his message to the world, to the devotees who were there, was through song. And we find very often that he'll give a certain teaching and he'll follow it up by singing. And there are many songs that really embodied his spiritual mood, his spiritual attitude. Many of them were songs of Ram Prasad, Kamalakanta, Bengali songs, worship of Divine Mother. But there was one particular song which Ramakrishna heard later in his life, which happened to be Urdu language song, that he really kind of fell in love with this song. And the Swamiji used to sing it for him. We read that when Swamiji, then Narendra, of course, when he would sing several songs, Sri Ramakrishna would say, "Now sing that one." So he would finish with that one particular song, and Sri Ramakrishna would be very happy. The song, we know in English, "All That Exists Art Thou." It's a very beautiful song written by Zafar, who, as far as we know, it's the same one who was the last Mughal emperor of India. And it really embodies this Sufi ideal, and very much in keeping with the Vedantic ideas as Ramakrishna saw them, especially this idea of seeing everything as divine. And with a devotional attitude, one of the special features of this song is that it combines a very high non-dualistic philosophy we find in the Upanishads and a very beautiful, sweet devotional mood and attitude. So I wanted to go through this one particular song, give a little historical perspective at the beginning, and see how it captures the mood and the spiritual outlook of Sri Ramakrishna in a very beautiful way. When we go through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find that there are 3 different occasions in which this song was sung. And what M normally did was he would give the entire song the first time, in the Bengali version, he would give the entire song the first time, and then second and third time he would just give the first few lines. But this particular song, he doesn't give the full song till later. So probably he also wasn't familiar with this song. This is all guesswork, of course. This is a song that apparently was part of the Brahmo Samaj songbook. And Swamiji probably learned it that way. Sri Ramakrishna heard it first, sung by Trailokya Sanyal. Trailokya, he was the really main songwriter of the Brahmo Samaj just before Tagore started. Yeah. So we can say that Rabindranath kind of took over after that period. Rabindranath was only 22 years old or something at this time. So he wrote many of the songs. This wasn't a song that he wrote, but he sang this song. So this is the first time we see, this is at Ram's house on June 13th in 1885. Now, this is a very significant date because this is the first reference that we have to Sri Ramakrishna's sore throat, which of course became his throat cancer, and was the beginning of the final year of his life, really. But even though he wasn't feeling well, that he was talking to the devotees, and at some point this Trailokya Sanyal came, and Joy Gopal Sen, two of them, both members of the Brahmo Samaj, and this is the song that he sang. This Tujhse humne dil ko lagaya, jo kuch hai so tu hi hai. Many people know this song. It's become popularized nowadays. Or Joy Chakravarti does a version. So it's a quite well-known song now. And the Brahmo Samaj, that they would have this in their songbook, is not so surprising because we know during this period that many of the Sufi poets and Persian poets, that they were considered to be very high culture. People studied these things. Swamiji's own father was kind of a master of that. He very much loved this Persian poetry. He was a great devotee of Hafiz. And he used to say that you will find everything in spiritual life in the poetry of Hafiz. So this was the first time that we come across this song. And the second time is October 24th, 1885. And now Narendra is singing it. So somehow, or Swami Vivekananda, somehow he also knew the song or learned this song. He was a member of the Brahmo choir, so possibly they all learned it and sang it in the group. This is all just guesswork on my part. But when Sri Ramakrishna heard it, he went into a really an ecstatic mood. And as I say, Sri Ramakrishna asked him to sing it many times. And then we find on April 22nd, 1886, in Kashipur, Sri Ramakrishna was moved there because of his throat cancer. And here M gives the full song. We get for the first time, we get the whole thing. So each time that Sri Ramakrishna hears the song, he becomes very much moved, and he talks about this idea of seeing God everywhere. So we see in the gospel, it says that Sri Ramakrishna was overwhelmed with emotion. Again and again he sang. He said, "Ah, thou art all. Ah me, ah me." So I want to go through the translation that we find in the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. As I said at the beginning, first line, "Tujhse humne dil ko lagaya, jo kuch hai so tu hi hai." I've joined my heart to thee. All that exists art thou. Thee only have I found, for thou art all that exists. O Lord, beloved of my heart, thou art the home of all, where indeed is the heart in which thou dost not dwell. Thou hast entered every heart. All that exists art thou. Whether sage or fool, whether Hindu or Mussulman, thou makest them as thou wilt. All that exists art thou. Thy presence is everywhere, whether in heaven or in Kaaba. Before thee all must bow, for thou art all that exists. From earth below to the highest heaven, from heaven to deepest earth, I see thee wherever I look. All that exists art thou. Pondering, I've understood. I've seen it beyond a doubt. I find not a single thing that may be compared to thee. Tu Zafar, it has been revealed that thou art all that exists. So this reflects two things. One is the very beautiful worldview of the Sufi tradition within Islam. But also, I don't know how many people are aware of it. I didn't know much about it, but Akbar was also very, very universal and liberal, and he started his own kind of religious tradition. There's Dini Ilahi, religion of God. And so this was also kind of a tradition that perhaps Zafar belonged to, that making no distinction between Hindu and Muslim. We find that this goes back even earlier. We have Kabir, for example. Almost all of the great mystical poets of this kind of Renaissance period in India, with the Guru Nanak and with Tulsidas and Surdas and Mirabai, all of them. The emphasis was really on tremendous devotion and also non-exclusiveness. So Sri Ramakrishna really is part of this long tradition, devotional tradition of the very loving, open. We heard the kids today. It was a very, very nice that they mentioned that Chaitanya Deva really was very much responsible, at least during his time, for trying to get rid of this caste distinctions. So this was something very strong part of the Sikh tradition and others, and so this is reflected in this Sufi movement and in this religious tradition that was started by Akbar. I don't think there's much of it left today, but if they're followers of that tradition or not. But anyhow, we'll see this kind of making no distinction between Mecca and Varanasi, and so beautiful language like that, very liberal types of things. Kabir was really belonging to that same type of attitude during his time. He was, of course, from a Muslim family, but equally beloved to Hindus and Muslims. And for some reason, he had a tremendous desire to be initiated by a great spiritual soul at that time, this Ramananda. And he wasn't willing to do it. So there's an interesting story that this Kabir, he knew where this Ramananda Swami, where he would go to bathe every morning. And early morning before the sun would come up, he would one of the bathing ghats in Varanasi. So he knows it's still dark out. So he laid down on a step, knowing that this Ramananda would come and touch his body with his foot. So in the early morning, it's still dark, he comes down and he almost trips. He steps on him and immediately yells out, Ram Ram. So this Kabir, he said, I have the touch of your holy feet, I have the holy name of God, I'm your disciple. So it's a very nice story. And both Hindus and Muslims really claimed him. And even at the time of his death, that Muslim community wanted to bury him, and the Hindu community wanted to cremate him. So they had a big fight over it. And while they're having this conversation, they hear the voice of Kabir say, now look and see where I am. And they lifted the shroud where the body was, and they found a heap of flowers there. Yeah, the body wasn't, this is the story, of course. But anyhow, the body wasn't there. So Hindus took half of the flowers and lovingly put them in the fire, and Muslims took the other half of the flowers and buried them. So, anyhow, this is that tradition that we get. We find so Sri Ramakrishna Jotomo Totopad, his special features that he practiced all of them, but this idea was prevalent in India from even the Vedic period. This Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti, very famous statement that God is one. The ultimate truth is one, and different people call it by different names. This is a very long tradition within India. And we have to remember also that at least during Swamiji's time, he writes about this, that relations between Hindus and Muslims, it was completely different in those days. And Narendra, Swamiji, he writes, or his brother actually wrote, that when they were children, that they would celebrate Eid and break the fast with all their Muslim friends, and their Muslim friends will all come over at the time of Durga Puja. So somehow we like to think that things get better, but they don't always get better sometimes. Sometimes they get worse. Yeah. But Swamiji, of course, grew up with a very, very liberal father. His father was not really the spiritual one in the family. That was his mother. His mother was highly pious, spiritual woman. But his father was very liberal. And Swamiji probably learned a lot of these Sufi poems and things from his father. Also, his father knew Persian quite well.
But they had different hookah.
That was because of the opinion of other people. Yeah, she's mentioning is referring to a story when Narendra was a young boy. His father, he was an attorney, so he used to invite different people from different communities. So some Christians would come, some Muslims would come, different caste Hindus would come, and there are different hookahs for all of them. Because in those days, main issue was sharing food, or else hookah even putting in their mouth. So his father tried to explain to Narendra. He said, "Why you're all the same? Why do you have to have a different hookah for each person to smoke tobacco?" So father tried to explain and everything that Hindus believe that they'll lose their caste if they use something that's used by someone from a different community, something like that. So this little boy Narendra, he went and put each one in his mouth, pretending to smoke, and say, "See, Daddy, I haven't lost anything." Yeah. But it wasn't because of his father. The father had to follow customs of the time, local customs of the time. He himself was quite liberal with regard to these things. Even a very Orthodox Hindu family, they won't invite these people to their home. Yeah. So that way, of course, they weren't Brahmins also, so they didn't have so many restrictions on it. Anyhow, I really want to get to the song and the beautiful significance of it and how it embodies so many of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So we can say that this is a highly devotional type of non-dualism. It's a very beautiful blend of these two paths, this Jnana Yoga and this Bhakti Yoga. We find this in other things. There's another song, this Rupa Shayari. Many of you know this song, that it takes a very Advaitic idea and puts it in perfectly devotional terms. We read in Vivek Chudamani and other texts that Brahman is like an ocean. And because of Maya, these waves come up, and each one is a whole universe, and all of them dwell within me, that I'm the source of everything like that. So he takes the same imagery, only there's an ocean of grace, and the wind is not Maya anymore, that this is also grace causing these waves to rise. And what is the wave? Lila. It's not Maya anymore. It's Lila. So we have this tradition. Even in Bhagavad Gita, we find that many of the Advaitic principles are no longer seen in terms of impersonal Brahman, but the personal God. I'll give two examples. We find this one phrase, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Now we have in the Upanishads that Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is nothing but Brahman. This is that same thing, but everything is nothing but personal God, Vasudeva. We say Krishna, everyone. So same idea, but in devotional terms. Then another nice example, when talking about this Kshetrajna, the field and the knower of the field. Now, in traditional Advaita Vedanta, the Sakshin would be the higher self. So Sri Krishna says, who is the Sakshin? He says, no, me to be the Sakshin. Personal God dwelling within the heart is the witness. So that from a devotional point of view, that same principle, that the higher self within, only looking upon that higher self as a personal God dwelling within. So this will be that type of blend of the Dvaita Vedanta and devotional, seeing it through a devotional lens, we can say, and allowing it to enter into the heart in a very emotional, devotional type of way. So this spin, we can say, is something I think is very important. If we see everything as a manifestation of the impersonal absolute reality or pure consciousness, it doesn't touch the heart in the same way. For Sri Ramakrishna to see everything, he would see everything as consciousness, he would see everything as the glory of God, he would see everything as Divine Mother. And to see things that way, really there's a certain joy that comes if we can have that type of experience. There's a very beautiful song of Ram Prasad, quoted by many of our Swamis, where he says, "Mother, I see, wherever I look, I see you alone. When I walk around the city, I feel like that I'm making pradakshina, that I'm making circumambulation, that I'm around you alone, Mother. And whenever I speak, I'm speaking only your name. You're the embodiment of all sounds. When I lie down, I'm making pranam to you. When I sleep, I'm meditating on you. Wherever I look, I see you alone." This is a very beautiful idea, not very different from the view of Dvaita Vedanta. I see nothing but Brahman shining through everything. But putting it in these devotional terms really allows it to touch the heart. And this is what Ramakrishna preferred. He didn't deny the other. Very often he would say, "I see everything is Chinmaya, everything is pure consciousness." But he liked this other idea also, that I see Mother herself has become everything. We have this even in this Purusha Suttam, this very old idea that this whole universe is nothing but the body of God. We're seeing God here now. The sun and the moon, or the two eyes of God. This earth is the body of God. This is a type of idea. So it runs through the whole Vedantic tradition, but this Dvaita Vedanta sometimes will emphasize the impersonal side a little more. That's really the main difference that we have. For Sri Ramakrishna, he understood the importance of looking upon this world as unreal. This is when we look at our traditional Advaita Vedanta, we have two ways of looking at everything. One is from this kind of negative side, the other from a positive side. Sometimes they talk about the path of neti and the path of iti. And neti is when we try to separate everything that is changeful, everything that's composed of name and form, everything that belongs to the realm of Maya, so that we can isolate that ultimate reality. This is called vichara or viveka. That we have to make a distinction between, we can say sat, asat, real and unreal. So Sri Ramakrishna accepts this as a very legitimate spiritual path, that we want to know the real self, we have to peel off, like the onion, peel off everything that doesn't belong to it, or is covering it, or is distinct from it. We have this Drishya Vivek idea that anything that's an object for consciousness can't be consciousness itself. So he says, yes, we do all this, but this isn't the ultimate final truth, that everything we see is unreal. The ultimate truth is that once we peel off this outer covering, we see everything as divine. So this is that distinction that he makes between jnana and vijnana. For the vijnani, that he transcended this idea of neti. Through neti, can have that experience of ultimate reality. Then coming down a little bit, sees that same reality is shining everywhere. That same God, the same Divine Mother, shining everywhere. So This is for Sri Ramakrishna a higher type of truth. So those who read the Bengali Katamrita, they'll see that Sri Ramakrishna almost never uses this term mithya. When he says Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, if he uses it, he's quoting the Gyanis. But almost always he says anitya. That he'll emphasize this idea, yes, everything is transitory. Everything is changing. There's nothing to hold on to. Or avastu, that there's nothing substantial to it. Avastu has a philosophical meaning, and it has a very practical type of meaning. Philosophically, it can really mean that we're only seeing the appearance. There's no underlying reality to it. That you analyze it, it'll disappear. But the other meaning is that there's something hollow about this world. That this world won't be able to satisfy our needs. That we're grasping for something, trying to find some deeper type of meaning and something that can give it to us. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna emphasized. When he talked about vichara, this vichara, sadasad vichara. This is something that again the Gyanis will have their own way of understanding it. That we have to think about what's ultimately real and what belongs to the realm of Maya. But for Sri Ramakrishna, it was different. Same with vastu and avastu. What has substance to it? What is important in life? What can satisfy us? What desires will simply lead us astray? How do we squeeze the orange and get the juice out of life? What could really ultimately satisfy us? This was the type of vichara, because we find very confusing statements that Sri Ramakrishna makes. He tells him, don't practice this vichara. Promise me you won't argue anymore, reason anymore. And the other times he says, one must constantly practice this vichara. So we have to understand the two different types. Constantly practice what is of value in life, what will sustain us in life, what is ultimately for our good, shreyas and preyas. But there's another highly philosophical idea that really is more in the realm of speculation and argumentation that no one will ultimately agree on. That we have to learn how to give up. So we have this idea of climbing to the roof. And at that time, we can simply say, this world, we can say, not that I see God everywhere, but this is all changing. This all belongs to the realm of Maya. These are all objects for consciousness. Then we get to the roof, and then we see everything different. When we come down, then we see that everything is all the manifestation of that same reality. Because at the beginning, actually, it's a non-dualistic path, but it's dualistic. We have two categories, what's real and what's unreal. As if they're two separate things, sad and asad. Of course, it's not really that way. It's like the bracelet and the gold. We may say from the point of view of the bracelet, there are all different types of ornaments and jewelry. Point of view of the gold, there's only one thing. But Sri Ramakrishna will emphasize this change of vision that we have after that highest realization. I'll just read a couple of things that he says. In the beginning, when one reasons following the Vedanta method of not this, he realizes that Brahman is not the living beings, not the universe, not the 24 cosmic principles. All these things become like dreams to him. Then comes the affirmation of what has been denied, and he feels that God himself has become the universe and all living beings. So this anulom vilom, Thakur's in English, they usually say first negation, then affirmation. Then he says, first of all, you must discriminate following the method of neti. He is not the five elements, not the sense organs, nor the mind, nor the intelligence, nor the ego. He is beyond all these cosmic principles. You want to climb to the roof, then you must eliminate and leave behind all the steps one by one. The steps are by no means the roof, but after reaching the roof, you find that the steps are made of the same material, brick, lime, and brick dust, as the roof. It is the Supreme Brahman that has become the universe and its living beings and the 24 cosmic principles. So this is that distinction that Sri Ramakrishna made between jnana and vijnana. And he used to say that the vijnani alone is the one who can really enjoy this world. That the jnani is a little bit fearful, doesn't want to get attached to things, wants to make sure that he withdraws. But the vijnani, he is like the expert player. He can do whatever he likes and just enjoy, see God in everything and see God everywhere. So again, he says, jnana is the realization of the self through the process of neti, not this, not this. One goes into samadhi through this process of elimination and realizes the Atman. But vijnana means knowledge with a greater fullness. Some have heard of milk, some have seen milk, and some have drunk milk. He who has merely heard of it is ignorant of jnana. He who has seen it is a jnani, but he who has drunk it has vijnana, that is to say, a fuller knowledge of it. After having the vision of God, one talks to him as if he were an intimate relative. This is vijnana. Now, for Sri Ramakrishna, there were vijnanis who were also jnanis, and vijnanis who were also bhaktas. So after coming down, he used to say, someone will keep this ego of knowledge, like Shankaracharya. For him, yeah, still this world a little bit hazy and dreamlike and everything. But for the bhakta, the devotee, then everything is seeing Mother herself. Everything seeing God everywhere. And it's a question of temperament. Sri Ramakrishna had a devotional temperament. So he had that knowledge of, that ego of devotion. And he said that God really so has to have an ego to live in the world. But it won't bind. It'll be a completely different type of the ego. So Sri Ramakrishna turned everything on its head when he was asked, is the world unreal? And generally, the Jnana will say that after God realization, we see that the world is unreal. He said the opposite. Until we have God realization, the world is unreal. Afterwards, we see it's real because it's divine and is a manifestation of God. They're not contradictory views, it's just a different way of looking at it. That we really know that we're seeing God everywhere. So all that exists are thou. So this is why this song appealed to Sri Ramakrishna so much. Now, we can say that yes, everything is that reality, everything, but Sri Ramakrishna will go a little bit further and again bring in this personal aspect and this divinity aspect. Now, when we talk about this external universe, we're also talking about the internal aspect of ourselves. So we also see within, God dwelling within us, God dwelling within all beings. So for Sri Ramakrishna, the two things, these are two different things. If we want to say that he saw God everywhere and he saw God in everything. So one thing is the whole visible universe he saw as Aishwarya, the manifestation glory of God. But again, God dwelling within everyone. So sometimes he would look at the body and he would say it's just a pillowcase. And within that is the divinity. And what is the divinity within? Is it the higher self? Is it God dwelling within? Either one. Either way, it just depends what appeals to us that way. Now, for Sri Ramakrishna, he used to say, if you search for Ami means I. You search for Ami, you'll find Tini. You'll find God dwelling within. Now, Swamiji, depending on his mood, would say, yes, we're searching for the real I. I am that. I am that source of the whole universe. I am one with the Brahman. They're just different, looking at it from different points of view. There's no real contradiction in this. So Sri Ramakrishna sometimes he'll talk about I see everything as a manifestation of God. Other times he'll see I see God dwelling within everyone. He says, well, I see Rama dwelling within all men, Sita dwelling within all women. At that time, this physical body and everything is secondary. Other times you'll see even the manifestation, this physical manifestation, also as divine. So Sri Ramakrishna had three different moods, I would say. One, seeing everything as Brahman. So this is that impersonal. This is a sarvam khalvidam brahma. Now, this is something that could have been one of the Mahavakyas. It could have been considered to be one of the great statements of the Upanishads. Everything indeed is nothing but Brahman. But all of the Mahavakyas that we have refer to the real nature of the self or the real nature of Brahman, nothing to do with this physical universe. That was always considered a little bit secondary. But for Sri Ramakrishna, this was a very important thing. So this whole universe, he would see, sometimes he would say Chinmaya, sometimes Chidghana. This Chidghana concept is very interesting. If it's a kind of condensed or congealed form of a Brahman. If we think the sky contains air molecules and it also contains moisture. Some places that moisture will be so condensed that from a distance we'll see it as a cloud. But it's nothing different from the sky. So from that point of view, that what we're seeing is really Brahman itself in some form that appears to be visible. Now, whether we like this idea philosophically or not, it's a difficult concept. But in any event, sometimes he would talk in these types of terms, that everything is consciousness itself. That's very difficult to think that we're looking at a chair, we're looking at consciousness itself. If we say Chinmaya, somehow a manifestation of consciousness. It's a little bit easier. Anyhow, Sri Ramakrishna, he was having a conversation with Keshav one time, and he said, on attaining perfect knowledge, one sees only one consciousness everywhere. Now, it may be talking to Keshav and the Brahmos, they didn't care too much for the highly personal idea of God. Theirs was more this nameless, formless reality. So maybe he's emphasizing it, but otherwise, this is one mood. When attaining perfect knowledge, one sees only one consciousness everywhere. The same perfect knowledge, again, makes him realize that the one consciousness has become the universe and its living beings and the 24 cosmic principles. Then he was talking to M another time about divine love. Attaining that love, the devotee sees everything full of spirit and consciousness. To him, Krishna is consciousness, and the sacred abode is consciousness. Chinmay Sham, Chinmay Dham. The devotee too is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. So this is that one, I won't say teaching, one mood or attitude that sees everything in terms of this impersonal absolute Brahman. Then it'll get a little more personal, as the personal God or even the Divine Mother. And this became more and more prominent, I think, in the life of Sri Ramakrishna as he came closer to the end. Kashipur Garden House, especially, that he really entered into a higher realm where he just saw everything as divine. Now, the seeing everything as divine is something that goes beyond this realm of logic. This is something, what is the proof of it? Proof of it is the vision of the mystics, of the special, not every God-realized soul even, very special class of the God-realized soul, with some type of mystic vision, the mind can enter into a higher level where these things are more real, far more real than this ordinary physical world that we see. So this was the realm in which Sri Ramakrishna lived. So in this Kashipur, as I say, this became more and more pronounced, especially seeing God dwelling within everyone. In one of the last entries that we find in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, while Thakur was still alive, that he quotes Ramakrishna, "Do you know what I see right now?" Again in Kashipur. "I see that it is God himself who has become all this. It seems to me that men and other living beings are made of leather, and that it is God himself who, dwelling inside these leather cases, moves the hands, the feet, and the heads." See, now again, emphasis is on indwelling God, not so much this physical universe. Both were real for him, but sometimes that would be the emphasis. I had a similar vision once before, when I saw houses, gardens, roads, men, cattle, all made of one substance. It was as if they were all made of wax. Yeah, he used to talk about seeing everything like artificial fruit, that it looks like an apple, a banana, and also oranges and everything, but he knows that it's all one substance. It's all made of wax. So this is how he saw this world. Then he makes a very tremendous statement that foreshadows his imminent death, really. He says, I see that it is God himself who has become the block, the executioner, and the victim for this sacrifice. Talking about this holy hunt, sacrifice of the goat. At that, Ramakrishna went into samadhi, and on retaining somewhat normal, when he would come down from samadhi, he wouldn't come all the way down. He would be in a very high ecstatic mood. And he saw Latu. Latu, his beloved disciple, sitting there with his chin resting on his hand. And he said, there's Loto. He used to call him Loto. He bends his head, resting it on the palm of his hand. I see that it is God himself who rests his head on his hand. So this was something that, yes, part of the world that Thakur lived in. He didn't see people the way we see people. He saw God dwelling within everyone, but not in an abstract way. And Swamiji also, this is very important. Swamiji didn't love all beings because the light of consciousness was within everyone. He loved them because he saw them as God, the individual, with all the faults and all the problems and the shortcomings and everything. That was the man that he used to say, I fall in love with man. That was the human being that he fell in love with. Not just some very abstract idea that consciousness within is the consciousness of Brahman, the light of the sun shining within, but really a very concrete type of thing, to see everything as divine. So we have this idea, then we'll get this last idea, bringing in the Divine Mother. Because when Sri Ramakrishna is speaking about God, that most of the time, this is of course my own feeling, he's thinking of Mother. And it's unfortunate that in English, we have to decide between he and she when we translate these things, when in Bengali, there's only one word. It's either tini or she. Then it's talking about God. We don't know male or female. Right? But the English translation with God, it's usually he. To me, it should be she most of the time. So we find that this is something that even goes back to Sri Ramakrishna's early vision at the Dakshineshwar temple garden, where, of course, the Mother Kali is right there, so things will naturally be in terms of Mother Kali. But he said, the Divine Mother revealed to me in the Kali temple that it was she who had become everything. She showed me that everything was full of consciousness. The image of Kali was consciousness. The altar was consciousness. The water vessels were consciousness. The door sill was consciousness. All was consciousness. I found everything inside the room soaked, as it were, in bliss. How do we find words to explain these things? Yeah, like the Rasgulla being soaked in the syrup. It's soaked in bliss. The bliss of God. I saw a wicked man in front of the Kali temple, but in him also I saw the power of the Divine Mother vibrating. That is why I fed a cat with the food that was to be offered to the Divine Mother. I clearly perceived that all this was the Divine Mother, even the cat. Now, when Sri Ramakrishna had his first vision, everything disappeared. So this is also true. We read this, Vivek Chudamani, God realized soul, oh, where's the universe gone? Everything is disappearing before my eyes. That also happened with him. But the mind is just a little bit lower. Then he sees this divinity shining everywhere. So it gives a completely different type of worldview for us, that a certain reverence for this created universe, however it comes about. But the tangible part is to see God dwelling within everyone. Whether there's a body is the result of combination of material things, it doesn't matter. That's for the mystic to see all of that. But to see the divine presence, to see that the divinity shining through the eyes of everyone, this is something that we can all try to do it at least. There was a very nice conversation with Swami Ashokanandaji, that one disciple asked him, how do we see God in all beings? How do we learn to see that? And he said, you learn to see God in all beings by seeing God. That sounds, overly simplistic, or even it doesn't make sense. It means we make an effort. We have to remind ourselves. We have to keep telling ourselves that divine presence as awareness, that divine presence as love, compassion, all of the things that can fill our hearts, is the presence of the divine within. So this all comes out on this beautiful teaching, all that exists art thou. Now, before I finish, I want to get to the opening words. This idea, I join my heart to thee, all that exists art thou, because this is the key to everything. That we start out as dualists. Now, we may think that we're Advaitins. Everybody likes to think that they're an Advaitin. This is a very common thing nowadays, that this is the highest type of teaching. Anything that smacks of dualism is nonsense. Yeah, that dualism has become a dirty word in Vedanta. I know we have some of our devotees, if you say something, they say, but Swami, that's dualistic. As if that is automatically disqualifies it for being of any use. Swamiji himself says that we all start out as dualists, at least in the path of devotion. Yeah, the path of devotion, we start out as dualists, but love is like a cord, and through that cord become closer and closer and closer, and we attain to that state of oneness, or that state of union. And now, this is a very subtle type of distinction, difference between saying that I'm one with the beloved, and saying that I've achieved a state of union with the beloved. Well, there's only one, there are not two. It's a subtle type of distinction, but in this very mystical type of Sufi tradition, there can be this idea of oneness, and still oneness of what? The lover and the beloved. Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. So, I mentioned before how we can take some of these highly Advaitic things and somehow look at them through the lens of devotion. So this idea of Soham, I am he, we also have Saham, you know that. And when we do our worship of Kali, there's a meditation, Saham, I am she. Yeah, so the Saham, it can also be done that way, generally not. Sri Ramakrishna used to like the Ram Prasad song, I want to taste sugar, I don't want to become sugar. Yeah. But the ultimate truth, even for the Shakta, is that ultimately there's a type of oneness. So for Sri Ramakrishna, the attainment of that feeling of oneness is very simple. That we simply get rid of this I. If there are two things, there's the I and the thou. There's a Ami and Tini, Ami and Tumi. With only these two things, we wanted to do this oneness, and then we simply get rid of one of the two. If we want to get rid of the personal God, say, I am everything, I am all that exists. Swamiji like that attitude sometimes, yeah. But otherwise, he says that Naham, Tuhu. That Sri Ramakrishna liked this idea. No, to forget about this I. Let me become completely forgetful of myself. I'll look within, and God alone dwells within. He used to say that he had two moods. Sometimes he would look within the heart and see two are there. Mother is there and her child is there. Other times he would look and they couldn't find this I at all. Mother alone is there. So this is that devotional type of non-dualism. that we can say. So Thakur told the story of the cow, this hamba and everything, how this feeling of I, this false sense of I, how this is the source of all problems. He said the cow cries, hamba, hamba, that is I. That is why it suffers so much. It is yoked to the plow and made to work in rain and sun. Then it may be killed by the butcher. From its hide shoes are made, and also drums, which are mercilessly beaten. Still, it does not escape suffering. At last, strings are made out of its entrails for the bows used in carding cotton. Then it no longer says hamba, hamba, I, but tuhu, thou. Only then are its troubles over. Yeah, those who are from the big cities in India, maybe all over India, I used to like to see these carters would come down the street and they'd be plucking their thing. And ladies would come out of the street and say, yes, I need a pillow made, I need a mattress made and everything. So Thakur was used to all of these things. So on this devotional path, the devotee has to offer fully 100% himself or herself to the beloved, so that there's no sense of separation. And this deep sense of union, deep sense of oneness is there. In the Sufi path, God is also nameless and formless. There's no image of God or anything. It's really the lover and the beloved. It's a very, very pure sense. Not in or Mother Bhava and everything. We have to think of a Krishna or Radha or something like that. There it's really, yes, God is nothing but the beloved. Yeah. Male, female, even something transcending that we can say. But this feeling of identification between the lover and the beloved becomes the ultimate goal of this type of spiritual path and will lead to realization. Swamiji refers to this in a couple of places, and I'll finish with just reading a couple of quotes of his. This was from a lecture in Chennai, then Madras, of course, entitled The Work Before Us. Swamiji said, there was an ancient Persian Sufi poet, and one of his poems says, I came to the beloved and beheld the door was closed. I knocked at the door, and from inside a voice came, who is there? I replied, I am. The door did not open. A second time I came and knocked at the door, and the same voice asked, who is there? It is I. The door did not open. The third time I came, and the same voice asked, who is there? I am thyself, my love, and the door opened. Then, in Thousand Island Park, Swamiji, he quoted another Persian Sufi poem. He says, there was a time when I was a woman, and he was a man. Still love grew until there was neither he nor I. Only I remember faintly, there was a time when there were two, but love came between and made them one. So this is that we can say the path that one follows in order to see the divine everywhere, that we have to turn deep within and we have to make that connection, feel that divine reality within. And if it's our temperament, in personal terms. Otherwise, we can be Ghanis. Yes, in personal absolute reality, that's also a beautiful ideal. There's no question about that. But those who like this devotional mood, to feel the presence of the beloved within our hearts, and that we can join that and feel the presence of the beloved there, we'll see the beloved everywhere, wherever we look. So this is that I've joined my heart to thee, all that exists right now. So I will stop here and we can have some questions. Yeah, part of the genius of Sri Ramakrishna was how he could give some beautiful teaching and break into a song that would just enforce, the message that was in that teaching. He did it so many times, or almost we can say it was a kind of teaching technique that he did.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your excellent. Thank you, Maharaj, for your excellent discourse. What I was trying to understand
Yes.
is that what you said is about uh, Vedantic perspective, which is through mainly knowledge, but what we practice in the missions are mainly image form of God or Sri Ramakrishna through a devotional path. So they're not contradictory, but the way we are going through is through devotion. Is it easier than through the knowledge path of Jnana?
Yeah, Sri Ramakrishna says that in many, many places. He says that the path of devotion is an easier path. And not that it's easy, it's also, it requires still that same devotion, that same love and everything, but he does say that it's easier. But one thing I have to add is that the devotional path that he taught is not a dualistic devotional path. That sometimes we hear this term, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, that it's before him, most of the highly devotional teachers were also dualistic. That meant that even in the highest state of realization, the individual is here and God is there. That there's ultimately there'll be some sense of union, like lover and beloved, but not oneness. Now, for Sri Ramakrishna, that when this ego dies, then nothing remains other than that divinity. So philosophically, he accepted this the highest ideal of non-dualism. We had one of our swamis, Swami Parameshanand. He made a statement. I may have mentioned it to you before. I like it very much. He said that in our order, we are Advaitavadins, but Dvaitakarins. That means that from a very practical point of view, we take a bit of a dualistic attitude in the beginning, that we want to have an object of worship, but understanding that at the ground, beneath the object of worship and the worshiper, there's only oneness. So from this highest point of view, that we accept the truth of Advaita Vedanta, from a practical point of view, that we utilize this sense of I, this ego sense that we have, that we don't try to deny it because we can't get rid of it. So he says, let the rascal remain as a servant of God, a relationship with God. Yeah. So he's very practical about it. It doesn't mean that there aren't those who are better suited to the path of knowledge. It's really a question of temperament. But you're right. For the most part, we do utilize all of the devotional types of practices in addition to meditation and other things.
Pranam.
Yeah.
Question about this consciousness and Maya. If everything is consciousness, then Maya is part of consciousness. Is it so?
Yeah, the Maya is a very slippery type of concept.
Sorry, I didn't.
Slippery.
But
We can't catch hold of it. It's like a fish that's in the water. You catch hold of it and it slides away. So that we can't really say that it belongs within the realm of consciousness, and we can't say it's outside of it.
so how will, as like very less knowledge of divinity and all,
What?
how will we make us understand like what is the difference between if everything is consciousness, that is God and that is good.
Mhm.
So if we think about that, then how come that consciousness as Hitler doing something wrong? So then how we will correlate it, how we will separate it, and how we will understand what actual consciousness is.
See, the light of consciousness will illumine the mind of even the most tamasic evil person. That same light of consciousness. But I'll tell you a very simple formula, which Ramakrishna really prefers. Every time you think of Maya, substitute Shakti. If we say that it is Maya, first of all, we don't know, does it belong within Brahman? No. There can't be any darkness or ignorance within that which is pure knowledge. Does it exist outside of Brahman? No. There can't be a second thing. So how do they explain it? They say, well, with the highest knowledge, the Maya disappears. So then there's no real need to try to explain it. But we understand that everything is the effect of Maya, so we don't deny it. It's a very tricky type of thing. But for Swami Krishna, he says, no, just accept that this Brahman that we're saying is pure consciousness from the Nirguna point of view. From the Saguna point of view, it has this Chit Shakti. It has this power within it. It's very hard, even for the Jnanis, to deny Shakti. Ultimately, they define Maya by this Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti, that it hides the nature of reality and superimposes something on top of it. So for Sri Ramakrishna, this is a very simple solution for him. That, yeah, to me, he would say, I'm not compromising the nature of Brahman by saying that it has a power, that this is inherent in it. At the same time, it's also beyond. At the same time, it's unchanging. I'll give an example that I like very much. We always hear about the sun of knowledge. The sun of knowledge, but is that the only thing the sun does? It gives heat, it gives warmth, it gives life. Things can't live without that sun. The sun, so what is this Maya? It's like a prism. We don't know where it came from, but we can't deny it. When the sunlight passes through, we see every color on the other side. The sun hasn't changed at all. It remains that same infinite absolute sun. It hasn't changed at all. But on the other side, because of this prism of Maya, we see everything all different ways. Now, how does evil come into the world? Yeah, this is because we don't know our real nature, and we assume that we can get enjoyment and happiness through external things that leads to competition with other people, and everything snowballs, if we want to explain it that way. Otherwise, we can say that everything exists within the realm of the Divine Mother. There can't be good without evil. These are human explanations. We don't know exactly why. But we can say, even within the person we think is the most evil, dark, tamasic type of person, rajasic type of person, the same light of consciousness is there. We don't confuse the nature of the mind with consciousness itself. Now, if we want to say this subtle body, 24 cosmic principles, this is also this play of the divine. Okay, but that's within this relative universe where there is good and bad and things like that. Yeah, but I think the easiest thing is accept the fact that fire has a power to burn. The Brahman that has this power to project this universe and remain unchanged. But once the universe is projected, then everything kind of takes its own course somehow. It's not that God is deciding each and every little thing that takes place. Then this law of karma comes into play. And all of this failure to know our real nature leads to all of the problems. It leads to a sense of separation and difference. And that I like my people, I don't like those people. That I want to fulfill my desires, I don't care about yours. It all comes from this ignorance of our real nature.
You, in the beginning, you were saying about the songs. The devotional songs always, helps us. And you said that even we don't sing, but if you hear the devotional songs, that helps us.
Yeah, now for Sri Ramakrishna, the songs that he refers to, it's not just devotional, they have very deep significance, say the Doob Doob Doob, Rup Chagari. I was thinking about that song earlier, that what is the first thing it's telling us? Where are we diving deep? This Vrindavan within the heart. It brings in not only this devotional idea, but the same idea that reality dwells within us as the higher self. So these songs both have a devotional side, but they also have a very deep meaning and significance. And poetry can somehow give us a sense of this higher philosophical these ideas and concepts better than philosophy can. That's why I read the Upanishads as poetry. I don't take everything so literally. Brahman thinking may I become many, and then projecting this element and that element and combining. To me, it's beautiful poetry with very deep significance, but it doesn't have to be taken so literally, all of these things. So yeah, devotional things, it can increase our love and devotion. It can also give us some deep insight into the nature of reality.
And also you were talking about Sufi.
Yes,
And Sufi is not the same as Allah or
Sufi tradition belongs to Islam. This is the highly devotional, ecstatic, mystical side of Islam. They're similar to, say, the Vaishnava tradition. Will have those who are highly orthodox and those who are highly exclusive in their teachings and everything. Then we'll have the Baals, who are equally Vaishnavas, but everything is free and loving and open. So every religion has its mystical side, and it has its own kind of restricted, conventional type of side. So this is a very liberal and ecstatic, mystical side of Islam, that it belongs to Islam. But the Baals and the Sufis, they were almost indistinguishable. And many of these Baal communities, there would be Muslims and Hindus living together.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, that was a very strong part of that tradition. Yes.
Pranam Maharaj, you touched the point of Leela and Maya.
Uh-huh.
There is a point where it is Maya, and if I have a consciousness, maybe it transfers into Leela. But on a day-to-day basis, it kind of attracts you, kind of magnets you into the realm of Maya. How to stay in the Leela part, how to stay conscious. What's Thakur's teaching?
Yeah. When Thakur used this term, he used these different terms, this Nitya and Leela. He used these two terms that also had a philosophical meaning of the absolute and the relative. Now, to see everything really as Leela the way he did, one has to reach a very high level. Very high level. That's where you almost don't make any distinction between who is being killed and who is killing, almost to that point. For us, I think it's better that we don't try to say, yes, this is all the play of God, everything is perfect. For us, if we see some injustice, we have to try to do something about it. If we see difficulties, problems, and everything, and we can be some force to help, then we try to do that. Only a very rare soul can be so detached from everything. And even Thakur didn't like that. Sometimes he would say that these ancient rishis, he would say, so afraid of being attached to anything that they wouldn't look one way or the other. And it's very traditional in India for sadhus not to get involved in anything. And now we do so much work trying to lift the poor. We could say that the poor, uneducated, that they're all part of that Leela. Why do we bother? See it as a divine play. Swamiji didn't like that idea. He said, yes, it's part of that divine play. I'm also part of that divine play. My role is to try to help them. Yeah. So ultimately, we can say yes, that we don't know why and how. This is all look at it, some type of a play, so we get some detachment from everything. But to say that everything that happens within it is the will of God, when people are shooting each other and killing each other and everything, that's not for the ordinary person to be able to say.
Maharaj, we don't have any other questions. So